don't like cricket. Oh no, I love it. I don't like cricket. No, no, I love it.
Weraroa stuck together, their spirits strong. No matter what, they always looked out for each other.
We all played as a team. We had bowlers who had to do their job. We had batsmen who had to do their job. And then in the field, we all had to do our job. And no, we had great team spirit.
We had the three first-class players, Craig Auckram, Chris Webb, who we haven't mentioned,
Chris.
and Ray Stewart, who was also first 5-8 for Waikato against the British British Isles. Took him 79 minutes to catch Barry Dron, and it was 2 minutes late and he got sent from the field. But he was a very interesting chap. He'd come up to you and say, look, I want to field in the slips for a couple of overs. And he'd be there for about an over, and then he'd disappear down to third man. And he owned 2 race horses and 2 trotters, so every time they were running, he would be disappeared, and you would find he'd have a little radio and a plug in his ear, and he would be listening to a race down at third man.
As a club man and person who, when I first started, was just coming to the end of his career and was so important to bringing a young team through was Gerald. You know, he's always been there. He's just, he's Weraroa. You know, as far as I'm concerned, he just epitomises it. And for me, Gerald was always the guy that just sort of, as far as Weraroa went, he was Weraroa.
Gerald, there's a number of very good players, and Craig Auckram comes to mind, who went on to represent CD, and then later in the 90s when I played still, Steve Carson and the Baines boys, Swifty Davis. So there's a number of very, very good players that have come through the club over the years, and have all gone on to play representative cricket and higher.
Making the Central Districts team was a dream for most cricketers playing for teams in the Horowhenua. Craig Auckram did it, representing Central Districts from 1989 to 1997.
Ever since I was younger, I used to listen to the Central Districts team on the radio, and they were kind of like the far-off heroes that you'd hear about on the radio, so it was always a bit of a goal. And I remember Basil Netton saying to me that you needed to get your name in the newspaper every week, and if you got your name in the newspaper, then the selectors, it would be hard for the selectors not to look at you. So I would go down all fired up, ready to try and take some wickets to get my name in the newspaper. So I tried to play well for Weraroa to get into the Horowhenua rep team, and then to play well for the rep team to get into the Central Districts team.
Another determined to play for Central Districts was Carl Trask, reaching his first century at age 17 and currently holding the highest recorded score of 196 runs for Weraroa. He's had no problems getting his name in the newspaper and has a number of mentions on the club's honours board, but he says juggling work, family and cricket was tough.
Yeah, it was a pretty good feeling, but it was a bit of a shock at the time because I wasn't really expecting to be called into the team at that stage of my career, and when I did, it was quite a buzz and a shock. Basil Netton rang me up, and I thought he was joking at first, excited and a bit worried at the same time, work-wise, but other than that, no, it was good thrill being able to play for CD. It was awesome.
Also hailing on the club's honours board and having a big role to play in Carl's success is Royden Trask.
Yeah, he pretty much was there all through my cricketing days. He always came along to watch when I was playing rep grade cricket through the age groups, and then when he took over as Horowhenua coach, that was good. And being captain as well at the same time was good, and being able to work with him with the rep team was a good experience.
Trevor Chambers is the top scorer for the Weraroa Cricket Club and feels privileged to have made such a great achievement throughout his cricket career.
Oh, it's quite an honour actually, because it's a club with a lot of history and there's a lot of great players that have been through, and it's sort of, you know, to sit at the top, it took me a while to get there, but to sit at the top is quite an achievement and an honour for me as far as that goes.
Weraroa started their own cricket community, and every Saturday and Sunday the men would head down to the grounds with family in tow to do what they loved, play cricket. But sometimes playing in such small communities does have its downside.
The fire siren went while I was coming into bowl, and I looked up, and then my batsman had his back to me, running away over to the fence to the fire station, taking a pad off, throwing his bat and everything away. And I said to Joe Ryder, what happens now? And he said, well, your other bloke's gone too, because Harry Shaw was a fireman as well, a volunteer fireman in Foxton. And so I said, what do I do now? And he said, they'll send in 2 more, and we'll just carry on. And when the time comes, they come back, they'll come back and bat. I love that.
But all this couldn't have been possible without the work done behind the scenes.
Important thing for the club has been the administrators they've had. Most of these administrators have been also the very good cricketers, but it really starts back in the 1950s with the likes of Alec Crichton, who was president, and his son Bill, Tony Ryder, Joe Ryder, Kevin De Castro, he had a term as president, KB Swain. They were the guts of the club in those times. The Riders were very much so when it was a weak club in the late 40s and early 50s. But it was from their efforts that we built into the club that we are today.
And as you can imagine, a lot has changed over the years, and someone who can relate is Glenn Johns, who's spent over 20 years with the club.
When I was first here, the older guys didn't have children, and then it became more of a family-orientated place, and then it slid away as we came through, and now it's starting to come back to that era again, which is good. Yeah, we haven't had that for a long time. It's really neat.
It wasn't an effort for us to come down and play cricket. You felt as though you should be home with your wives, because the wives came and they were part of the club. They catered, they were part of the club, and we just had a wonderful, probably 8 to 10 year period, and it was very, very enjoyable.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night.
And with successes came celebrations, something this club can do just as well.
It meant a lot of parties, I can tell you that. I do remember waking up outside the oak tree just out here at about 5 a.m. in the morning with no, well, in one case and one other sleeping beside me, which is not a great advert for alcohol and everything else in New Zealand sport, but that was the sort of thing that happened then.
My most embarrassing was probably when someone invented a red wine called Cold Duck, and that got the better of me one night. But
he still thought he was okay to drive. But coming along Bartholomew Road, he was all over the road. So I had to try and persuade him to get out, but so I could drive. And he sat in the back seat and never spoke to me all the next day.
They had played a club game in Power Pram, and they had 2 bats to our 1 on the first day. Unfortunately, the last 2